Brandon Tavakoli grew up right here at Stephen Wise Temple and Wise School. And when I first started working here, I think you were in 5th grade-ish. Yes. And then you've joined us many times on this Bima with your beautiful voice. This week, a lot of us have been following with unease and a sense of incredible heartbreak what's happening on many of our campuses here in the United States. I interviewed my daughter Nomi on my podcast this week, and a lot of you have already sent me emails saying that her story really touched your heart. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, you can find it on our webpage. Just search for Meaning with Rabbi Yoshi. It's a really, really powerful story. And I'm not just saying that as a proud father of her, how articulate and sensitive she was, but I think it's an important story because it gives you an insight into what's happening on that campus. And then this week, things started to really heat up right here in Los Angeles at the USC campus, and we're seeing it all over the country. And so I reached out to Brandon, who is president of Trojans for Israel, also a senator in the student government at USC. And so I wanted to hear from Brandon firsthand, but I also just wanted to share before I asked Brandon a few questions. I texted all of our students whose cell phone numbers we have in our database at some of these campuses. So University of Texas, Austin, Columbia Barnard, USC, and I just wanted to share a few of their replies to me, because what you're hearing are 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old young people who should be learning, they should be having fun, they should be engaged in dialogue and even debate at times, but they should not be going through what they're going through on a lot of these campuses, where they are being confronted with hate speech, where they don't feel physically safe, many of them. And they're also put in a very strange position where a Jewish student on campus is forced to defend the actions of a foreign government that they may or may not be a supporter of. Most of them actually are, but that's not an appropriate thing to ask a student to do just because he or she is Jewish. It's really, really disconcerting. But let me just share with you a few things that I heard from some of our students. One of them said, "Thank you so much for the text. I really appreciate it. I'm studying abroad. I'm not on campus right now. But I've been hearing from all of my friends how crazy it is at USC. When I get to LA, I'll reach back out." So his friends are texting him every day, telling him what's going on there. Someone said, "It was so nice of you to reach out. USC is a little crazy right now, but our love is stronger than their hate." And then I got 3 Israeli flag emojis, which was really nice. Another student said, "It's absolutely crazy right now on the USC campus." Another student said, "Thanks for reaching out." This one was actually very painful to read. This student said, because he said, "I don't feel particularly unsafe on campus because I don't look visibly Jewish, but the prevalence of anti-Semitic incidents on campus really worries me." So think about that for a moment. So it says clearly from this text, it has absolutely nothing to do with whether you support Israel or don't support Israel. It's, are you a Jew? And if you look Jewish, you're going to be victimized and targeted in some ways. And if you don't, you won't. So I just want to share some of the words of our students. And Brandon, I want to thank you for your leadership at USC. Tell us a little bit about, from October 7th, and we don't have all the time in the world, I wish we did, but tell us a little bit, maybe a few vignettes of what you've been dealing with on your campus as a student leader.
Well, it's great to be back home. I think I would not be in my position now. I wouldn't feel empowered and eager to communicate and share who I am as a Jew without the seeds that were planted in me at such an early age by my parents and by the faculty and the staff and the rabbis here. So I'm just incredibly grateful to Stephen Wise Temple for all of their support. And I wear Stephen Wise as a badge of honor every time I walk onto campus. So it's really great to be back home. I think it's really important for all of us to understand that every campus is different. Each campus has its own culture, and I was involved in this movement before October 7th. And USC's campus is traditionally and historically not an activist campus. We see a lot of student activism, a lot of enraged political advocacy on campuses like UC Berkeley, on campuses like Harvard and Yale and Columbia and the other Ivy Leagues, but we never saw that at USC, there was a level of apathy. But that all changed last week when we saw tens of protesters that we have never seen before on campus set up encampments at the center of campus and yell, shout slogans that are eerily similar to calls for the final solution, calls for violence against Jews. And for Jewish students who walk onto campus, the response is they have a right to free speech. You may have misunderstood what they have said, or prove that you feel that way. Prove that you feel harassed, targeted, or intimidated.
That's the comments that you're hearing from administration.
We're hearing it from critics. We're hearing it from critics of the Jewish community when they, take the courage to ask the administration and ask the greater community to stand with us and recognize that, although every student has a right to free speech, and that includes, advocating for the Palestinian people, that includes criticism of the Israeli government, they don't have a right to deny and delegitimize the Jewish right to self-determination, and they do not have the right to blame Jewish students for what's happening thousands and thousands of miles away. So just to close, I think it's we as Jewish students want to be like every other student. We have projects and final exams that we have to prepare for by next week. And it's completely unacceptable that when Jewish students walk on campus, when they walk through their final classes of the semester, when they walk into their final review sessions, they are met with the most vile bigotry. And we are told that that can be contextualized within a conversation of free speech and can't be forcefully denounced with the moral clarity it deserves.
Thank you so much, Brandon, for beautiful explanation of what you've been experiencing there. And I just have to say, what's interesting, when you said that you had to sort of prove your feelings, which is so interesting because we're living in a moment where so many people are saying, when it comes to identity, when it comes to, making sure that students have safe spaces and that they feel comfortable and they're not triggered, all of these other kinds of things, which I'm not criticizing right now. I'm saying, okay, if that's the moment that we're in, okay, I understand that. That's different than the moment that I experienced in college. But then you can't say that that applies to every student, but not to the Jewish students, not to students who are Zionist. And many of us have remarked on this, that if you replaced what's happening on campuses right now in terms of Jewish identity or someone who's supportive of Israel, and you turned it into almost anything else, administrations at every college campus would be immediately out there, forcefully telling people how they should behave. What are some things as you prepare? Right now, we've heard that the grand commencement that was planned has been canceled. Graduation is not canceled, but the commencement ceremony that a lot of your upper class friends have really been excited for has now been taken away. What are some things that you, as leader of Trojans for Israel and as a member of the Student Senate, what are some things that you're really advocating for? And also, are there any things that people who are watching who might be SC alumni or who also have kids at SC, what can we be doing to support you in your desires and demands?
Well, at USC, I just want to say that from my personal experiences and interactions with the administration and with President Folt herself, I have no doubt that they have a serious and deep commitment to Jewish life on campus and to fostering a welcoming community for all students, especially Jewish students. But comforting words can only go so far, and we need them to act on their word. And I also just want to say that for every one example of targeting, intimidation, and harassment that you see of Jewish students, you see 3 to 4 times the amount of incredible resilience. Jewish students don't agonize, they organize, to quote Speaker Pelosi. Jewish students are hosting the most incredible programming events. We have done exhibits for hostages, a Balloons of Hope exhibit. We've been meeting with our members of Congress, inviting them to Shabbat dinner. So it's really easy for us to harp on negative experiences, but what I ask of you is to reach out to your college student, to someone that you know on a campus, and just thank them for all of the work that they're doing, because a lot of the work that they do, a lot of the effort they put in to build a more welcoming environment for everyone, including Jewish students, goes unrecognized, and we're at the forefront of incredible innovation in terms of living Jewishly.
That gives me so much hope, and I want everyone here to know that the Board of Rabbis of Southern California, the Federation, synagogues, we had a really wonderful meeting yesterday along with Hillel leaders at USC and UCLA, Hillel 818, saying how can we help, what can we do to support, and this isn't the first time we've connected with them since October 7th and before. There have been many opportunities, but just this week we got together and said how can we be supportive, and it was Shabbat dinners, making sure everyone has a challah, making sure that the Hillel staff are supported because they've been working day and night, and they're there to support you, but they need our support as well. So there's lots of ways that people can help. I want to close with something hopeful, and what you just said was quite hopeful, but I'd love to hear maybe a story about something that you've experienced over the last couple of weeks or even just in the last few days where you have really seen your Jewish community come together in a powerful way, or you saw a Jewish friend reaching out to you. I'll share one of my own as you think of this, and it was so beautiful. A friend of my brother's from high school who lives here in LA has always been a nice friend to me as well. And every now and then he'll email me or text me, especially since October 7th, he's given me a lot of beautiful messages of hope and support. And when everything sort of exploded the other day, he texted me and he said, "It's super goy. How can I help you?" And then he had a big smiley emoji. And I just texted him back and I said, "You are a super person, and thank you for reaching out." And just that little thing of saying, "I'm not Jewish, I'm a friend, I'm an ally, how can I support you?" It really meant something to me. So maybe you could share one of those vignettes with us of whether it's a fellow Jewish student or a non-Jewish student or a faculty member, someone who's really lifted you up in the last couple of weeks.
So, as a member of the undergraduate student government and a vocal pro-Israel Jewish leader, I've taken a lion's share of public targeting and harassment. And that culminated in a student government hearing that deliberated my removal from office. The impetus for it was a silly mistake that I made, but everyone felt that was a deliberate double standard against a Jewish senator. And a couple of months before, me and one of my Senate colleagues we've been publicly opposed to one another. We diametrically stand on different sides of this issue. And I think one of the most emotionally touching moments was in that hearing when I was defending my case to represent the Jewish community and to represent the student body. She did not need to do this, but she stood up and she looked the administration in the eye who brought the case forward, and she said, "Me and Brandon completely disagree on what's happening in the Middle East, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that the grace that you offered me as someone who supports the Palestinian people is not the grace that you offer to Brandon, someone who represents the Jewish community." So at the end of the day, everything is based off of the relationships that you build. We need to start seeing each other with the humanity that we all deserve, and that comes with building personal relationships. And I actually created this new form of diplomacy. In the State Department, you have different forms of diplomacy: climate diplomacy, economic diplomacy. But I created a new form of diplomacy. Are you ready? We should use this as Stephen Wise. Shabbat dinner diplomacy. And that is where we invite someone outside of the Jewish community, whether it be someone in a position of elected leadership or someone in a position of leadership outside of the community, for a Shabbat meal. And so we can communicate and share who we are, what our stories are, and just build a relationship through that. One last thing.
Love that.
One last message of hope. The common thread in our thousands of years of history, the common thread for our identity and our identity as Jewish people is our resilience. And Jewish students are proving the essence of what it means to be Jewish, and that is our resilience. We are standing up every day with our heads high, proud of who we are and proud of our deep connection to the State of Israel and what the State of Israel means to each of us. And we are building the relationships, we're building the coalitions to make the world a better place and to make our community more welcoming for all people, especially Jewish people.
Brandon, thank you. On behalf of the congregation, I know there's, yes, Yasher Koach.